Okay, back at it again finally. It's been a while because I've just had other things on, plus I haven't been having a really good time mental health wise, so you know, I don't want to go into too many details because it's not really a pity party. Let's just say that I haven't really been up to it, so, but back at it fresh. I'm going to clean up here first, a little bit. I've got a little bit of a mess to clean, not a whole lot. And then I'm going to start looking at, I've got the dimmer for this, and I'm going to use this to operate the dimmer. So what I've got to do somehow is underneath here, I've got to put a pin, oh, I don't know if you can see that, a pin and two stoppers. They're going to be easy enough to do, so you can just turn so you can't turn too far. And I'm going to mount the dimmer, what will be the back. I've got to find something to mount it in, and I'm going to gear it. I'm just going to use it like a Lego gear and mount that on the dimmer, so when you turn this, it'll turn the dimmer. Make sense? I think that'll work. It'll be something a little bit different. And the dimmer will be here. I'm going to try and drill the hole deeper through here, right down, and bring it out under here. And then I'll just secure the wire. I've got to get some more electrical wire. Obviously the one that comes with it's not going to be anywhere near long enough, so I'm going to have to see if I can get hold of some, or just even some black wire, just the same colour, and I might even just use, I mean I could use these I suppose, but like I said, I need the switch for a start, and that's just really, just hang on a second, let me unwrap this while you get random shots of shit while I'm untying it all. It might be okay, just let me look. We'll get that off the fucking thing. Yeah, it's not going to be long enough. I'd like that to reach, oh, it almost reaches the ground. That might be long enough, you know. I'll see how we go anyway. That can be done later. I can always add more to that later on. Plus, I'm going to try and make a move forward with one of the other lamps. With the other one with that's going to utilise that air filter, because these were the first two that I got, the order. I've still got to do more. I've got to do another lamp like that one, and one similar with just that gear set, and another diff center for a desk lamp. So yeah, so I've got plenty to do. I've sourced two diff centers. I can't find another gearbox just yet. They do have another shaft for me. I'll include the photo in this video of what they got. That'll do for the desk lamp. But I've got onto another supplier in Tamworth. They rebuild gearboxes up there, and I spoke to them yesterday, and they said they're always throwing stuff like that out. They've got several scrap bins, and people raid them all the time for different bits and pieces. So I'm going to go up there one day, probably early next week. I want to get some more done here because I've done nothing in the last, well, it's been a week. So, you know, like for the lack of progress, I do apologise, but it took me all my strength just to get out here today to start. So I'm going to get moving now. Once I've got everything cleaned up, I'll bring you back and we'll have a look at what we're going to do, eh? Okay, cleaned up a little bit, as you can see. We've got some room. Went inside, that's the dimmer. So, you know, incandescent, it'll handle from 10 watts to 200. I don't know if you can see that. Hang on, let me. Or LED, so it does both. It does LEDs and you can set them too. You've got two screws to set the maximum and minimum. We shouldn't really need to touch that, but what I've got to do is find something to mount that in that'll fit nicely And I'm going to see if I can get a Lego gear that's small enough to fit on that. And then mount that Lego gear on top, like glue it on. And like I said, mount it with something. I'll have it inside, put it inside something and mount it there. But I don't know what I'm going to mount it inside of. Like, you need something that's going to sit in and look decent, so so it's basically hidden. I have my aluminium stock here. I might even be able to machine something out of that to put in, and then I can secure that in there with what do you call it? That Loctite, Araldite. So yeah, like I say, I need to try and come up with something. So while I'm thinking of that, I might start on this. I'll get this out, and I'll make the plate for the top. Drill the holes in it for that and the piston. So I'll drill the piston. I might stick that delay. That's the shit that I put on there, that UV resin to test it when I glued it to the glass. I had to give that a fair belt to get it off too, so. But I might just clean that off. I'll drill one hole in the centre for the cable to go through, and I just put 2 holes either side of the pin to put a bolt through, and have it so that I don't have to drill any more holes in this. So then I might, once I've got them done, I'm going to powder coat this and this top black. He wants these done in like an olive green, which I've got. I went and bought it. And the bolts that I put through there, the little coach type bolts, I'm going to do those in olive green as well. I've just got to work out how I'm going to powder coat them and stick them in the oven. So that'll be black with the olive green bolts. Similar to what I did with Amit's, where I had the black with the red bolts. So I might do a little bit on this today, as well as rack my brain on what I'm going to do with that. As I said, I've got a couple more I've got to start on, but I want to get these 2 done. And then I've got to try and find the parts for the other 2. Well, I can go and get the parts. It's going to cost a bit, but and then I want to start on that table, the Harley table. So I can do a few things all at once. Just do a little bit on each. So let me just have a think about this for a minute, and then I'll bring you back. Okay, stepped it up a bit. I've got the aircon on and the fan going because it's nearly 30 degrees outside. It's just starting to warm up in here. What I've come up with, I've got a little plan going here because I want to be able to powder coat stuff evenly. So what I'm going to do is I've got this bearing off the gearbox, out of the gearbox, fits nicely onto that shaft. I'm going to cut that shaft off there, put it in there, tack it in. That's just the base. Then I'm going to put the bearing on there and just tack it underneath. Only needs 1 or 2 tacks to stop the bearing sliding. And then I might put something on top here, and just tack it to the bearing. Just give me a bit bigger base so I can sit things like that, and then I can turn it while I'm powder coating it. I just find a bigger bolt to put in there just to clip the earth on, and it should earth through that bearing okay. I'll soon find out if it doesn't because the powder won't stick. Worst case is pull the seals out and clean all of the grease out of the bearing, or the oil I should say, and it will come good, which I might even do before I finish it. I'll pop those seals off and clean them out, get the oil out, and that'll earth fine through that. Like I said, I only need to spin stuff slowly so I can powder coat it. I found this. I think I cut this out for Amit's lamp originally and didn't use it, but I can use that on this. So I think the reason why I changed it is I put the powder coating on I powder coated it wrong. and I had a hell of a time trying to get the stuff off, but then I realised it's hard to sand, it's hard to sand blast, but paint stripper takes it straight off. Like that's only been on there a couple of minutes, and so I'm going to clean that off, stick it on top of this, mark out these holes to drill that, do the piston, get this knocked over. I'm still thinking about Ammet's land. I've taken the top off, and I'm going to drill through here first, get the channel for the cable, and then I'll try and come up with something from there, even if I've got to go back out to Wardy's and go through his rubbish pile out the back and see if I can find something on a motor or something out there that I can use. I mean, there's several things I can use, but I want it to look good. That sorted, I will get those drilled and powder coated, get them in the oven. And once I've done that, I'll pull this out, drill that out a little bit bigger. I don't know why I drilled and tapped that end. I don't need to drill and tap it. I need it just a fraction bigger to put the electrical pipe in there so I can glue it in. Epoxy, that's the word I'm trying to think of. The brain's still not working properly, but use epoxy to glue it all in. And then I've got to try and work out how I'm going to secure this. So there's a lot of thinking to be done, and still a little bit of work, but I want to get this some progress. Okay, gave up on that. It's too fucking hard. So it's stainless. I mean, I'm taking a risk doing it with this thing because stainless steel can fuck these saw blades up. But let's give it a whirl. Yes. Oh yes. Look at that. That's fucking beautiful, isn't it? Can you see that bastard if I got you in the right shot? Oh yeah. That'll come up nice. I mean, it's always just don't need to weld that fucking thing. Just put a tack on that. That's lovely. Alright, we've got it all done. Look at that. It's not exactly fucking perfectly centered, but I only laid the bearing on there and guessed. But it'll come off. I've cleaned the bearing out. It's only tacked on. One tack there, or one tack around the other side. Just to sit that on. And let me put this fucking thing on. So now when I'm powder coating it, I'll put the clip on the bottom and just spin it like that and powder coat it while it's spinning around and around. I think that's going to work just fine. Look at that. I mean, I've cleaned the paint off this as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my little rotisserie up in my powder coating cabinet, get it out of the road, and I'm going to mark this, draw it, drill it, and then I've got to cut another piece from somewhere. I've got little pieces just to put underneath to bolt between the top here, so when I bolt the piston down, it'll hold the piston on top of that. So I'll sort that out and then I'll bring you back. Alright, I got him all in there, hooked up, put another bolt in there to hook my earth up. The oven's just warming up now, so I'll give it a bit longer and then I'll bring you back when I'm ready to powder coat and throw it all in. I don't want to sort of do it too early, I want to make sure the oven's hot first. So I'll be able to give this thing a test and see how it works. Should be fine, I think. So I'll bring you back very, very soon. Stay tuned. Right, I'm ready to go. I think that oven's close enough to being hot. I can't really tell. Because when I hooked it up, I broke the light that tells you when it's at temperature. And just as I speak, I heard it click. So it's good to go. So let me turn this stuff on. That's closed. Now we give that 20 minutes. We'll give that 20 and then I'll turn it off. We turn this noisy son of a bitch off. And then we'll revisit it once it's done, eh? Oh, I forgot to mention while that's baking, I did this as well. So I'll just put a bit of wire in here to see where it goes through. That's where the electrical wire will go through. And I'm going to mount the dimmer at the back here. This will be the back for all intents and purposes. So, I'm going to, I was having a look too, because see this has got a split bearing, which is the way they go in the gearbox obviously. They put it inside this, but it's not real tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bit of aluminium or aluminum and make a sleeve to go on here to fit that on, so it's a neat fit. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Oh, I forgot to mention as well, I got this done. So that's in a hole, that's where the cord will come through. And the two outside ones is what I'll use to bolt it to the top. I'll use those. And hang on, you can't see shit there, just let me, there you go. And so I'll just use that to bolt it on. So there. So that's almost ready to proceed. I'm still going to clean it up. I cleaned all that shit off the bottom. Clean it up. I've got to change all this shit over. I've actually got to assemble this before I powder coat it, because it's too easy to damage once you powder coat, and then you've got to press that gudgeon pin in, or wrist pin as our American friends insist on calling them. So hang on, I had a look here before. I think I found a way that you might be able to see in here. Use this little fucking torch, turn him on. I don't know if you can see, oh yes you can see in there. See that rotor is just starting to come shiny now. It takes a little while for it to get the heat into it. So yeah, so I've still got about, I don't know what's the time now. Time's 11:15, so I've still got about 10 minutes left. So we'll have a look and see how it comes up, eh? Okay, I've just turned that off. It's been on for about 20 or so minutes. Ouch. And that looks pretty good. That looks bloody good. It might still get a little bit of spotting on the top there, but that's okay. I've worked out how to overcome that. I'm going to, I'll just wet and dry sand it and then clear coat it. So it's just a thing that's just particular to powder coating cast iron. I think that's the problem. So, but they've come up nice. I've got that sitting in there. I'm gonna stick that in there. I don't know whether I'm going to do it today, but and then get ready. I can just use that. I'll have to shorten that up a little bit just to mount the dimmer there. Yeah, so I'm thinking I'm going down, leaning on doing that aluminium and making a bush for that. While I've got it in the lathe, then I can just machine something down to put that in, and then I'll stick it in the mill and then just drill a hole and then use an end mill or just the smallest end mill I've got and just sort of square it out a little bit. And make it flat in the boss so it sits in there, then I can epoxy that in. It doesn't need to be secured overly tight, as long as it sits in there and doesn't spin, which it won't do if I do the square sides on it. So so yeah, that'll work. I might do that tomorrow. I might do a little bit more machining. That gives me a bit more to film as well. Machining the bush for that and the mount for that, and then I'll have also tomorrow I might assemble that piston, change my powder coat colours over and powder coat those. They'll be ready then. So it won't be a whole lot off. I can't do anything until I drill. I've got to drill the end of that out to take the electrical lampshade holder, and I've got to machine an aluminium bush for that to mount the clock face. This is just a test one, it's a buggered one, so I can mount the clock face in it. So yeah, I think that'll be like a day on the lathe tomorrow, machining up some stuff. I may come out a bit later on, but it stinks like fuck out here, because I really probably shouldn't have hung around here while that was cooking, because they say the fumes aren't all that crash hot, but there you go. I've been wandering around here, sucking on fumes. We just suck it up here. We die choking like real men. Okay, I might call it a day. I'll see how we go. It's going to take a long time for that shit to cool down, so yeah, I think I might call it a day, and I'll bring you back tomorrow when I've got more to do. There's a lot of machining tomorrow, so I'll probably be able to do a lot of video tomorrow, machine some shit. So thanks for hanging around, for those of you that actually take the time to watch, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. In the meantime, stay safe. Peace.